about revenue management. So, does anyone have any idea about what revenue management is about? If you do have a little bit idea of it, please let me know by raising your hands. No, none. Okay, fair enough. So, revenue management. Talk about the history of revenue management, how it came into the aviation industry. Then I'll give an introduction about what revenue management definition is actually, and the importance. I'll show it an example. What importance does it hold in the airline industry? The key factors of revenue management, the new trends, the new fashions of air revenue management the airlines are adopting, and the conclusion. So, the history of revenue management starts with the Airline Deregulation Act, which was in USA, Chicago, 1978, where before 1978, all the airlines were regulated by the government. So, there were less competition because every airline were designated their routes, the amount of fare they can impose on the passengers. So, they were not much making. They were enjoying more profit back then, but there were not much competition because of this regulations restriction. After the deregulations, freedom of fares comes into the business. So every airline were putting out their own fares according to their cost and the value of the airline, and which brought more competition in the airline industry. Because on the same routes, 3 or 4 or more airlines were offering their services. Moving on to in 80s, American Airlines, which is sometimes called to be the pioneer of revenue management, they introduced early bird, which is the earlier you buy, the cheaper you get the ticket. So that was the basic factors of the revenue management, which started back then. Moving on to 90s, low-cost carriers come to the business as if named few low-cost carriers are Southwest, EasyJet, Ryanair. So these are all low-cost carriers. They minimize their operating costs and they also decrease the fare level for passengers, so which brought more competition and which is like an alarming situation for the legacy airlines. Then in mid-90s, more improved revenue management come to the system. People started recognizing the importance of revenue management in the airline industry. So it's starting everything. In 2000, majority of the airlines today has a revenue management system. Not all of them, because and they basically focus on cost, profit, and they are more aware of the competition. Just to give a fun fact, is American Airlines, the pioneer of yield management, as I said, estimated that revenue management increased their revenue by $1.4 billion between 1989 to 1991. That's how much revenue management is important for the airline. At the moment, only 45% of the total airline in the world have their revenue management department. And some of them are not practicing revenue management quite accurately because of several reasons. First of all, that things come into my mind is because of the lack of senior management acknowledging the importance of revenue management, and then after that, the expertise in this practice. So, coming to the introduction of the revenue management. Revenue management is basically as simple as that. It's the method of maximizing the total revenue of an airline. But I promise you, it's not as simple as it sounds. It's very much typical, which I'll show you how. The goal is simply different from simply having the highest load factor. And so, if one can say, if I fill my aircraft with a load factor of 100%, like every person is flying on the aircraft. So that means I would be making more money, but turns out it's not the case for the revenue department. It requires sophisticated tools like information management system. You require a certain amount of data to set the fare levels, and forecast models, like you would know how much demand would be there on a certain time of the year, on a certain date, on a certain daytime, how much flights I would be offering to the passenger to increase my revenue, and other optimized algorithms. So basically, what I understand algorithm means like they have derived some formulas and practices which you can forecast the demand on certain aircraft. So according to that, you give services for the passengers. So moving on to airlines without revenue management system, the conventional old-fashioned way of increasing the revenue for the airlines was to sold all the tickets without protecting higher yielding late booking tickets. Imagine if you have sold all the tickets just to fill your aircraft on a cheaper fare, and it turns out on the last minute, an hour before your departure, a business passenger comes to get check in to the ticket desk and ask for a ticket. And let me tell you, business passengers are the highest yielding passengers for the airline. They are like the gold for the airline industry, business passengers. That's where all the airlines make their revenue from, for the business passenger. And when you have sold all the tickets on a cheaper rate, you have to turn them down because you don't have any more seats for the high yielding passengers. So, and the old-fashioned assumption was that again, the higher the seat factor, the more revenue they would be creating. But that's turned out wrong. And the airlines were wasting their resources by coming with the best guess. Okay, let's suppose let's take the Pakistan situation. Recently, border available are here. So what airlines would be imagining that okay, if border available are here, so more people would be traveling to Saudi Arabia. So I should put more flights and more resources on the flight from Pakistan to Jeddah, but they don't know how much they should be how much resources, how much fleet, how much flights, what kind of services they should be providing. They go by the best guess. Okay, last year this amount of people traveled from Pakistan to Jeddah. Now I should be providing services for this amount of passengers. So there is no actual number for that. Fuel limits were imposed. Fuel limits imposed means like there were not many classes back in the old era. That now we have business, first class, economy, economy plus, premium economy, and etc. etc. Coming to the importance, management maximize profitability by setting the correct number of seats at various levels based on demand and pricing elasticity. So it's not about selling the ticket, it's selling about the right fare level to the right passengers so you can earn more revenue. It has, after airline revenue management came into the airline industry, the airline industry has increased their revenue by 5 to 9%. And in some cases, it goes up to 11% for the leading airlines. And basically, revenue management is managing its assets. So, for airline, their asset is seats. It's a perishable inventory for the airline. So, once a flight has taken off, and if the seat is empty, that revenue has gone. All the efforts to putting out that flight for the airline, if the seat is empty, that effort is all wasted. And also, it also minimizes seat spoilage. Seat spoilage happens when an empty seat is flown on an aircraft. It could be for several reasons. Either the passenger didn't decided to fly on that flight, or he cancels the flight on another last minute, or sometime a travel agent booked a seat on a flight, and he forgets about it, which actually does happen a lot of times. So that's where they lose their revenue. And spillage. Spillage happens when you have assumed that okay, let's suppose this month 1 million passengers will be flying from Karachi to Dubai, but turns out it's 1.2 million. So you have lost the revenue for 200,000 passengers in the month because of that. You come up with the best guess policy. Risk of denied boarding and downgrades. Again, if you don't have any seats, you lose the passengers because there are no more seats there then, and you have to deny the boarding for them. The side benefits, the extra side benefits of revenue management, which is more helpful for the other departments of the airlines as well, whether it's fleet planning, whether it's network planning, whether it's customer service, whether it's catering. Because if you have a right model, if you have a right forecast or demand of the airline industry, you would know what kind of aircraft the airline should be acquiring, what kind of services it should be providing on a certain flight, what kind of customer service they should train their crew cabins for that flight, and what kind of network planning they should be having because of the revenue management practices. Just to let you know how important is revenue management, these are the industries who have a revenue management department in their industries, whether it's airlines, hotels, car rentals, theaters, and hospitals. You name every industry most of the industry has the revenue management. So that's how much important it is to increase the revenue and make some profit out of the business. So I'm going to talk about 5 key factors. I would like to say 5 problems for the airline which is faced and how revenue management solve these 5 big problems for the airlines to make some profit. The first problems come in status quo, as I said, is you lose the revenue when you ask a passenger, when a passenger does not show at the airport and late cancellation. So to resolve this issue, airline does overbooking. I'm sure all of you must have known about overbooking. There was recent 1 year back, there was an incident in United Airlines where a doctor was denied flying on an aircraft just because he was overbooked and a computer randomly selected him. Has anyone seen that video on Facebook? The United Airlines guy thrown out of the aircraft by the police. So this happens when you overbook a flight. And let me tell you, aircraft does have a legal right to overbook a flight because they lose the revenue when a passenger doesn't show up at the aircraft or late cancellation. But they can't do it like, they do have a limitation on overbooking. They have to look at the historic data, how much no-show were there on a certain flight, how much late cancellations were there, and so it's not just overbooking. It's not just about overbooking a flight. Revenue management come up with the optimum level of overbooking. How much percent you should be overbooking on a flight by looking at the historic data. So it needs a little bit of research for that. Yeah, just on a human level is what is important for the airline is a high yielding passenger. So if a poor people decide to fly on an aircraft or an airline, so that is airliners are not interested in that. They just like get out of here. So the second key problem for the airline is spoilage problem, which happens when you just come up with the best guess that how many people would be flying on an aircraft. You don't do any research about. You don't come up with accurate figures for the aircraft, and that's how you either under constrain the demand or deconstrain the demand for the passenger. To resolve this demand issue on an aircraft, what revenue management does is discount classes restrict at some point prior to the departure. Imagine leisure passengers, which I would call discount passengers, are leisure passengers who are not going for any business, they are just going for a holiday or vacation. So what if they come at the airport in the last minute and ask you to buy a ticket? You don't have tickets for them. You have to deny the boarding because you have sold all the tickets. So you also have to keep in that mind. So for the last minute passengers, you have to restrict or protect certain amount of seats. But again, by looking at the historic data, not just by just guessing it, so you can see the pattern of how many people we deny voting just because of we don't have any more seats for them. The third is deny voting for the high-yielding passengers. So high-yielding passengers are business passengers. They usually book their flights an hour, 2 hours before the departure because business passengers are not price sensitive, they are time sensitive. They don't care about the price, because usually the ticket of the price are paid by the company. So what they are more worried about is about the time of the flight, which is more important for them. So these are the passengers who come at the last minute, and we should restrict or protect a certain amount of seats for these business passengers to increase our revenue. The fourth, the upgrade opportunity. Again, if you go at the, if you're flying somewhere and you have booked the economy ticket, but now you have decided to upgrade to business or first class because you have a little bit extra money in your hand and you wanted to have a better customer service. So we decided to have an upgrade opportunity, but you have to pay for that, and that's where the airline makes money out of this. But imagine if none of the economy passengers wants to upgrade, and there are more passengers they have the airline book compared to their capacity. So what airline does to the economy passenger, they upgrade the passenger to the business class free of cost. So they are losing the revenue over there. They could have charged for them for the upgrade opportunity, but just because the flight is full, the economy cabin is full, and there are few seats available in the business cabin, so they would upgrade them to the business cabin. And there are two downside of these. First is you lose the revenue. Second, it would bring bad image to the airline, because the first class or business class passenger would think that I paid hundreds of dollars or thousands of rupees on this flight, and this passenger, he has paid economy ticket and he's flying with me. That won't give put a good impression on your airline. Again, you quantify it by coming with the historic data, and you look at how much overbooks you have done in the past, and how much you have to upgrade, how much passenger you have to upgrade from economy to the either first or business class. So you also make a balance between your overbooking and utilizing of your cabin space. The first is differential pricing problems. For every airline does that nowadays. Every airline has different prices for the same flight on the same route. Most likely, if you have the passenger sitting next to you have paid different amount of money for this ticket compared to you. So, but passenger doesn't get this idea of price discrimination. He sees all the aircraft, all the seats as a one commodity, and what you have to make a difference in your product by introducing different brands. As I said, back then there were no different classes. It has been recently introduced as a first business and economy a couple of decades back. So you add, if they are paying more money, they should know they're having a different class of different services on the aircraft. They are having an added value to their customer service. Because in Dubai, again, I would repeat myself, again introducing more classes like premium economy, economy plus, and etc. etc. So that's how they would go for the different prices. So if you guys have remember, I said previously, it's not about filling the aircraft with the passengers. It's also about having a highest average per seat on the aircraft. I will explain it by this example. If you guys can see, imagine there's a 300 seats aircraft you're flying, and you have two types of this fare level. One is full fare, one is discount. Discount is 1300, full fare is 1900. So these are three kind of situations you have on your aircraft generally. In situation A, you would sell 50 tickets to full fare passengers, and you reserve 250 tickets for the discounted passengers. And in the second situation, you sold 190 tickets on full fare and 50 on discounted fare. And in the third situation, 135 on full and 135 on discounted. Remember that all three situations have different load factor, different amount of number of people are traveling, because some are agreed to pay higher, some did not agree to pay the higher fare. So the statement over here is the key thing. The one that makes you the most money, which in this case is C, because I will show you how C is making more money, is not necessarily the one that gives you the highest average yield, which is in this case is B, and or the highest load factor, means your aircraft has more passenger on the aircraft, which in this case is situation A. Because if you look at the revenue here, I calculate how much money I'm earning on this flight. I multiply my fare with the number of tickets I sold. In situation A, I'm earning 420,000. In situation B, I'm earning 426,000. And in situation C, I'm earning 432,000. Although I'm making more money in situation C, that's not good for the. That's not what revenue management is concerned about. The revenue management is concerned about the average yield, the average money they are making per seat. If you look at the yield, I divided this money by the number of seats I sold. So on per seat, I'm earning 1,400 in situation A, and in situation B, I'm earning 775. In situation C, I'm earning 1,600 per seat. So if you look at these figures, I'm earning more money in situation B, which is 1,775. Even though my aircraft is not filled with all the passengers, my 20% of my seats are empty on the aircraft. But I have an average price, so that's why I'm earning more money per seat. If you look at the load factor, so in situation A, the aircraft is 100% filled. In situation B, it's 80% filled, the load factor. And in C, it's 90%. Although I have the lowest load factor, I'm making more money per seat. So that's when I said that it's not about just filling the aircraft or giving a cheaper ticket. It's a right balance between load factor and the price you're offering for the airline. Mixed pricing. Multiple prices for each customer generates significantly more revenue compared to one price model. Imagine if you have a one price model, let's suppose Karachi to Dubai, you're offering $30,000 rupees ticket. That won't make you more revenue because you only have one price model, and even the business pricing, who's willing to pay 50,000, he would go also for 30,000. So you've lost 20,000 on the aircraft, and some leisure passengers who are not as who are more price sensitive, they won't buy the ticket. They can't afford a 30,000 rupees ticket, so they would, because their limit is maximum 20,000. So they won't fly on your aircraft. So you also lost the higher yield passengers. You also lost the lower yield passengers. The only average passengers who are able to afford 30,000, they would only fly, and also the business passengers, because it's a cheaper thing for them. They don't care about the money, they care about the time. So to counter this problem, airline introduced mixed pricing. They are having multiple, not one, not two. In some cases, there are more than 15 or 20 different prices. Or sometimes it goes more than that. Different types of prices you're offering. More people would be, according to their financial level, they would be traveling on the aircraft. In case of limited capacity, of course, you limit only the lower class, so the cheapest fare. If you have a limitation of your capacity, the demand is more, you only limit only the cheapest fare. So so you can have more revenue for that. Different fare services. Also with different fare, different services comes. You can see in this fare class, these are the fare class. Then the price of the ticket, the advance purchase, how much they should buy the ticket, how much in advance they have to buy the ticket before the departure date, and the Saturday night stay, and refundable. Saturday night stay, according to many studies, turns out to be the most effective way to restrict the business passengers to buy a higher fare level. Because imagine if a guy coming from Islamabad to work in Karachi, and he has to go on weekend back to be with his family to Islamabad. If I put a restriction on him that he would get a return ticket on XYZ airline, but he has to stay for the Saturday night. He can't fly on Saturday night. He can only fly on Sunday morning. So that's where they won't go for a cheaper ticket. That if you put this kind of restriction, he would definitely go for a higher fare, because again, he doesn't care about the money, he cares about the time. So that's how you restrict business passenger to the higher level. So for 400 fare levels, the business passenger or the high yielding passenger, they don't have any restriction for how earlier they have to buy. They can even buy a ticket at 2 hours, 3 hours before the departures. And they don't have any Saturday night restriction, so they can travel on Friday night, Saturday night, which is feasible for them. And their ticket is 100% refundable. If you buy a little cheaper ticket, then you have to buy that ticket 7 days before the departure date. And again, there's no restriction for Saturday. And there's 75% refundable amount on the ticket. The more cheaper you go, the more higher the restriction is. For 150, it's 14 days. You have to buy the ticket 14 days before the departure. You have to stay for the Saturday night, and you will only get 50% of your amount. And the cheapest ticket you have to buy at least 21 days before. Definitely a restriction on Saturday night, and you will get zero amount of money if you want to refund your ticket. So now I'm going to talk about revenue management questions. How we should be implementing revenue management in the airline. First, how to set the prices. How we know that how much fare level I should be giving to the passengers. You look at the three main key factors. First is knowledge of the demand. You should have your historic data or a data from either from ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. They also provide data for the flights globally for the airline. You can get your data and learn from it, from the past mistakes, and that's how you set your capacity, and that's how you set your prices, And then you compare it with the other airlines, how much they are offering. So you also have, don't forget, you're also competing with other airlines. So you have to make your fare more reasonable according to that. And also your cost, how much fuel you are burning, how much salaries you are giving, how much airport charges you are giving, basically your operational cost. You can't offer a ticket lower than your cost, then you would make loss in it. So definitely it should be more than your cost. How do you discriminate business and leisure passengers? Because business passengers tend to be more revenue generating assets for the airline. Again, by putting on restriction, as I said earlier, if you put the more restriction you put on a flight, the more diversity you would see, and the more revenue you would be getting, the more people would be flying on your aircraft. And again, also looking at their status, what kind of status they are holding, either they are going for business purpose or they're going on vacation with family. That's how you discriminate, and also their age. How to set the capacity. Capacity is also a main issue for the airline industry. Sometimes and overcapacity also is not good for the aircraft, for the airline industry. So you have to come with as close as precise forecast model for the airlines. The more precise your forecast, the more you will will be able to make revenue on flight. Okay, these were all the old-fashioned ways, the conventional ways all the airlines were doing since 1970s and 60s. Since 1980s and 90s. Now, there's new things coming into the market for the airline industry. Now they are evolving their revenue game because there are more competition. There have been more airlines than ever there was. And these are the three most common practices the airlines are applying in their revenue management system. First is data science, second is ancillary sales, and third is Internet of Things. I will talk about them one by one. First, data science. Data science model is collect, detect, and act. As simple as that. You collect the data, detect how much, what's the behavior of the passengers they are flying, and also you act according to that behavior. The conventional way was from the conventional way was not making much more decision, more accurate decision. They were coming up with algorithms, they were coming up with assumptions. So, and they were not picking up everything, every small detail or every passenger's behavior in that conventional way. What machines are doing now is machines analyze the data, it learns from it, and it solves the complex data, which is in billions and billions, and it spots a pattern on the traveling behavior for the passengers, and it creates a program to act upon it. What machines analyze is how much no-show rate was, how much overbooking they were made, how much downgrades were there, how much upgrades were there because of no reason, because of you don't have any capacity to cater those passengers, and how much passengers you have to turn away just because you don't have capacity for them. Because of this importance of data science, Oxford University in 2015 opened a data science department in collaboration with Emirates Airline. So over there, all the engineers, mathematicians, scientists, aviation people, they are all gathering there, and they are all working on this data science practice, and they are coming with more accurate forecasts for the airline industry. In 2015, again the same year, EasyJet, which is one of the most popular low-cost carrier for UK, they opened a data science department, which was first of a kind in an airline industry, and they appointed a guy, Alberto Re Bilbate, which happens to be a postgraduate from my university, University of Westminster. He did data mining from there, and that data mining practices he applied on the historic data of the airline passengers. Because of these, how they analyze data is only just alone on EasyJet website. There are 1.3 billion searches annually, so they don't have to go anywhere to collect the data. EasyJet has their own 1.3 billion searches every year, so they can spot the difference. They can feed the machine with this data, and they can do their work with that. Because of this data science implemented in the revenue department of EasyJet, according to Financial Times, EasyJet increased 20% revenue per seat since 2010 till 2015. That's how much is effective on data science is to the revenue management. Legacy airlines are still a little bit behind from these low-cost carriers, because the low-cost carriers are decreasing their services. Sometimes they are called paperless companies, because I was working at London Gatwick Airport, so there was an EasyJet check-in desk, and over there I saw a passenger. He was paying £50 just to print his boarding pass. So the airlines were putting a fine on him just because he didn't print out his boarding pass from his home. So he had to pay £50 on the airline. So that's much how they are strict about their services. That's how much they are reducing their services. The second practice revenue management are having more focus on are ancillary sales. Ancillaries are. Does anyone know any idea about ancillaries? What ancillaries are? Okay, good. One. Anyone else to okay. So I guess majority of people don't have any idea about ancillaries. Ancillaries are the small fees and charges airlines apply to the passengers. It could be either extra baggage fees, heavy baggage fees, priority boarding, priority check-in lane, priority security lanes, pre-check-in, pre-boarding, etc., etc. So these are the supportive services airlines provide, and they charge for them to the passengers. So just to quote some figures, ancillary sales, let alone ancillary sales, were responsible for generating 60 billion worth of revenue, which is 9.1% of total global revenue of airlines in 2016. And that same ancillary revenue was 4.8 in 2010. It's almost double now. So what ancillary sales doing the airlines, what kind of practices they are doing in ancillary sales is they are reducing the cost difference between first class and economy class. They are very, most of the airlines are who have an efficient revenue management in their company. They are imposing a very nominal fees pay difference between airline economy and first class. So more people are flying from first class to business class just to pay a little bit extra money. If not first class, they would definitely go for premium economy. So that's how you can also increase your revenue with just reducing the pay difference between first and economy. And more seating options are offering the passenger. United Airlines has Eco Plus, Delta has Eco Comfort. So just paying a very nominal fee, you can have extra leg room or extra better meal on an aircraft or better customer service on an aircraft. So more and more people are availing these services. And also, airlines also impose a small fee for the passengers only on their designated airports where the passengers can enjoy a priority check-in or a fast lane, a fast security lane, a premium lounge for the passengers. So more and more people are avoiding these hassles, getting into the line by paying small fees to the airlines. So that's how airline is also making money out of these small fees. Purchase of reward miles. So back in old days, you can buy reward miles, but you won't be able to upgrade your status. Imagine if you are a normal passenger, you're holding a very small amount of reward miles. You could buy extra miles from the aircraft, but your status won't change. But after a certain amount of reward miles, a passenger is upgraded to elite passengers, where he can enjoy more services, more customer service, and most likely to score a seat on a certain flight. Now, airlines are allowing the passengers to buy these reward miles and upgrade their status. So when the passenger came to know they can be elite passengers just buying the reward miles, more and more people are willing to pay for the reward miles. So that's how they're also making money out of it. Dynamic bundling. Back then, sorry.
Basically, it's a loyalty program.
Yeah, true.
And by program, unless it has significantly become flying fast traveling frequently.
Mhm.
Revenue part not really come to airline. Mine divided is what?
So basically, how it works, let's suppose you are not a very loyal customer to the airline. You're not flying much with the airline, but you're willing to pay money to them just to buy more reward miles, just to improve your status from normal passenger to elite passengers. So airline is accepting money to give them more reward miles and increase their status. So airlines are more concerned about the money. If it increases their status, they are happy to do it. So more people, because of this practice, because of these services, more people are engaging to buy reward miles. Back then, no one cared about reward miles. They only say, okay, I have to fly a certain amount of miles to achieve a certain level. Now I can buy that mile and I can achieve that level. Dynamic bundling. Back then there was only static bundling. So if let's suppose a business person is flying on a business trip and a family is flying on a vacation trip, they both were getting the same bundle, the same, I would say, same services and same reward miles. But turns out it wasn't very effective for the revenue departments. What they did, they made a dynamic bundling, and they are offering different packages to the leisure passengers who are going on vacation or to see their family, and they are different bundles for the business passengers according to their status. Just to give an example for ancillary foreigns, in 2013, Delta earned second highest ancillary revenue in the airline industry. Just to quote some figures, they earned $830 million from just bag fees, $960 million from purchase of Sky miles, which is the reward miles, $635 million from purchase of preferred seats. Like you can, if you want to have a window seat, a aisle seat, or an exit door seat, or more leg space, you have to pay for it. In-flight Wi-Fi, if you want to have a Wi-Fi on a flight, you have to pay for it. If you want car insurance, priority boarding, etc., etc. Again, if you compare the ancillary revenue with the amount of profit the airline is making, you can see by these figures, these are the airlines, the ancillary revenue percentage, how much percentage of ancillary sales they are making in their revenue, and how much profit overall they are making, not just from ancillary, just overall profit. Allegiant Airlines, one of the low-cost airlines, they have 32% of ancillary revenue. They make 32% of amount of money from ancillaries, and they are making 70% profit. And Ryanair, 26% of revenue comes from ancillaries, and they are making 14% profit annually. AirAsia has 17% of revenue comes from ancillaries, and they are 15%. And the last three bottom have not made any much paid any much attention for the ancillaries. As you can see, just not to annoy you guys, the PIA has 1% of ancillary sale throughout the year, and no wonder they are making a minus 18% loss annually. So not just PIA, they are also Saudi Arabian Airlines, Korean Airlines. They are not putting more focus on ancillaries, so that's how they are not making more profit. They are losing an opportunity to increase their revenue. Oh, sorry, it was just the insurance for the passengers. Car is just a typing mistake. It's just the insurance for the car. When you buy a ticket, you also have an insurance for the passengers as well. Coming to the conclusion, the moral of the story is revenue management is basically selling the right product to the right customer at the right place at the right time for the optimum price via the best channel. That's it. That's the revenue management. It's not about selling the aircraft. It's not selling all your tickets. It's about the optimum level of everything. Either it's booking, overbooking, pay level, everything. Highest average fare is the key. Again, as I said, highest average fare should be higher. So it's good for you in the long term. Even if you are making more money on a flight and your flight are offering cheaper tickets, your flight is full, it's not good for you in long term because operational costs will increase out because of that. So in long run, you have to have highest average fare on each flight. Revenue management is not built on figures and formulas. It's more into collaboration, cooperation, and creativity. You collaborate with other departments as well, whether it's commercial departments, sales departments, operation departments. You all share the data for of the revenue management or forecast models you're having, and you cooperate with them, and you come up with a creative idea how to increase the revenue. It's revenue management. I would say it's basically an art. It's not just science anymore. Data is your ally because you act according to your previous historic data, and assumption is your enemy. Don't do best guesses. Come up with a logical reason. That's how you come up with a number and how much services or flights I would be offering on certain flight. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for me? I would be happy to answer that. Yeah, sorry.
What is the scope of revenue management in Pakistan and your airlines actually practice revenue management?
Okay, I think I would be the best person to ask how revenue management is happening in Pakistan. I would say it's on a very poor level because as we all know, we don't have any good aviation industry at the moment. Certainly, the air traffic is growing in Pakistan, which also requires a better revenue management, especially for the legacy airline PIA. We have so much potential, but I don't believe that state-of-the-art revenue management has been practicing in Pakistan. Any more? Yeah.
Most of your presentation was based on customers for them high-yielding business class passengers.
Sure.
But are you aware of the fact that all the private airlines have rejected those business class seats and have shifted over to all economy?
Are you talking about just Pakistan?
No, I'm talking about Pakistan.
You're talking about Pakistan.
Yes.
So
All the private airlines have rejected the business class seats and have shifted over to all economy seats.
Yeah, no wonder. I totally agree with you because what I believe, I could be wrong, that we don't have any business passengers as much as the other countries have. Even though we have, the airlines are not making as much money. They can separate the business passenger from the leisure passengers because business class seats need more services, more leg space. That means you would have less seats on the aircraft because business seats takes more space than leisure passenger seats. If you have seen the aircraft, so for that you have to lose some seats just to cater the business passenger. That's why it has been rejected in Pakistan. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. Any more questions? Yes,
Okay.
Have you tried to analyze charging for ancillary services every sort of service? Does it help and just credit from the airline as well?
It does not. If you look at the EasyJet, Ryanair, the most
They are
leading.
all LCCs.
True.
You have compared like American Airlines and United Airlines.
Legacy airlines like Emirates, Qatar Airways.
How to charge for people and it will come to that. Then it will come to that.
That is true. I would believe legacy, as I said, legacy airlines are not practicing ancillary as well. What they usually do is they give a bundle offer to the passengers. Everything is included in that. But my topic was not just for the legacy airline. My topic was revenue management, and revenue management goal is to increase its revenue. How you can increase the revenue? You start charging people for the services they are getting. I know it's not a nice thing to do for the passengers, but that's an opportunity for the airline to make money.
For example, I whenever I have to go because of my cost,
Okay.
I prefer in airlines like Emirates, if you
Okay, imagine if there's you're traveling somewhere, there's also a low cost carrier on that route as well.
Like Air India charges for it.
Yeah. If you are true, yeah, Air Arabia is making more money than the
On the passengers, when anybody on the line gets all these players, is earning something profit for a small price.
fees are very nominal, sir. It's not as according to the if you look at the pay level of Air Arabia and Emirates, you will see a big difference. Yeah, it could be that, but these ancillaries are more successful, I would believe, in the Western countries because people are more traveling there, they're more price sensitive, and they have different demands. We don't travel much in Pakistan, so we would go for, as you said, you would prefer to choose the flight with Emirates because it offers you everything without charging for everything. That is true, I agree with that. But we need to also work on the how to sell the ancillaries as well. Imagine if Emirates also started charging you for your bag fees, and they can increase the revenue by putting charges on the services, the kind of services you're getting on the aircraft. So that's also another thing. Yeah, some people would decide to turn away, but at the end of the day, they have to travel. They don't have much option. They have to obey this the flight. There is no other way. So at that point, passengers are willing to pay for the ancillary. It works for the other airlines like EasyJet, United Airlines, Delta Airlines. It works for that. I hope that satisfied you with the answer. Any more questions? Anyone? Yeah, sure.
My question is relevant to the revenue. So the question is that if we are traveling towards